Chloe,
Okay.
what is a personal brand?
Oh, I love this question. I talk about it a lot, as you can imagine. So I think people are getting a little bit confused with being like an influencer and being a character online, when really it does come down to you're running a business, you have something to sell, and you are the face to it. You're the person to that business, which means you have a personal brand now. Some people don't want to have a personal brand, but maybe are one by default. Some people prioritize having a personal brand and they think that they're doing everything, but they actually end up showing up like a influencer and not running a business. So the power of personal brand, it really is your leverage to building a business where you are the face to your business.
Do you think that founders need to be the faces of their business today?
Not always. And I know a few people, like clients that I've worked with, that are doing a great job and they're not, and they have a team. And it's more of a community driven brand. However, I do think in the current climate that human driven brands are very, very important. I personally would always lean into it. If someone asked me, should I have a personal brand? I would always try and encourage them to. But sometimes it's not right for everyone. So it's not a yes or no, but I do think it will help, especially if you are the product, if you are the service provider, if you are the one delivering, people need to connect with the human to the business. So I think it's very, very important. But if you wanted to build a product brand, for example, there are ways that you can do it community driven. For example, Starbucks, right? They have like a community driven brand. They don't need the face to the brand. But yeah, if you're an entrepreneur and you have a service that you want to sell and you are that service, I do believe it's very, very important.
Let's talk about what made you want to start teaching people about personal branding. Why do you feel like it's important for founders to learn about it?
There's so much. I think it comes from my background and how passionate I am about being in business and loving what you do. Now, I grew up with a single mum, single parent, and she tried loads of different things. And I saw her try so hard to build something of her own. And now I just think it's so important because, and I love teaching it because I just think how amazing to live a life where you get to decide what that looks like and you get to do what you love. And I don't really like to use the word alignment all the time, but when you are in alignment with what it is that you do and you love doing it and you show up for it, yes, it is hard, but how incredible that you get to wake up every day doing what you love from a place of, I'm really good at this. And people know me for how good I am at this thing. I just think it's so important. And a lot of it comes down to obviously mindset work, identity work, leadership work, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a moment. But when you can really start to enjoy that journey, how incredible to build something that you love to do every day.
Tell me a bit more about your personal journey because a lot of people, when they start the journey of entrepreneurship, they don't think about making their face
Mm.
the brand completely. They focus on how am I going to get the business to the next level.
Mhm.
So, what was the personal journey or something you faced early on that made you think, I need to be the face of my brand?
I think a big factor for me was the networking side of it. So when I started, so I had a marketing 9 to 5 and I got put on furlough in 2020. And I was very much like, what can I do? I need to stay busy. I've got so much that I want to do. And I couldn't really just sit still. So when I was on furlough, I decided to basically create a social media management business as it's known now. It didn't really look like that at the start. And I networked, and it very much was this first ever client that I had took a chance on me because of my experiences, my knowledge, my passion. But I wasn't the best social media manager in the world because I've never done it before. And having that conversation with the first ever client that I had, she saw that potential in me and she was like, I can't do what you can do, and I don't know what you know because that wasn't her area and it still isn't. And she was like, yeah, you'd be great. So I did that. And then I started networking with her network and I became known in her, I guess, industry. And they all then wanted me to be their social media manager. So I just think when I look back at my journey, if I had hid behind, you know, I don't know, top tips and that sort of content where you don't see a face, I think it would have been a lot harder for me to make myself known. And again, people liked my character, they gelled with me as a person, and they saw my passion towards the work and how much I loved to do the work and how much I was willing to go above and beyond and the ideas that I had. through conversation. So that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have put myself in those situations. So now I just think if you want that big impact, you need to be the one having those conversations and putting yourself in those rooms, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and allowing people to see who you are and what passion you have. I think that's, I'm trying to find another word for the word passion, but I think it really is that if someone can see that you're hungry and that you're excited and that you know how to do something, they're gonna way more rather take that leap with you than not knowing the face of the brand at all.
You pointed out something really important. You were talking about how you attracted your client because of the skills that you had, the knowledge you had. I love that because I feel like people don't lean into their uniqueness enough. You already have the skills that you've gotten from your 9 to 5, from past experience, and you've now put that into your business. How can early stage founders do that instead of thinking that they have to start from scratch?
I love this question, and I think what's happening so much in the online space is people saying you need to be more you or you need to be more authentic. And then what happens is that people then lose themselves in trying so hard to make that happen, if that makes sense. And I think actually, when I look back at my journey and what I do with my clients and what we still do even now and what I do even now, is just really keep it simple. Like, what do I believe in? What do I want to be known for? What am I good at? Because I think so often people try so hard to be different or be themselves that they actually end up losing themselves in that process. And there's so much content online of, be more you or be more authentic. And actually, then everyone tries to fit in that box. And I think there's a whole thing with authenticity at the moment. I speak about this quite a lot where people say be more authentic and it looks like a certain way. And then everyone does that thing or is authentic in that way, then end up being the same as everyone anyway. So actually, it's trying to stay tunnel vision and just really tapping back, like even something like journaling or just having a chat with yourself every day, every week, and being like, what is my opinion on this? What am I actually really good at? Because when you have that clarity, and sometimes it does take having a conversation or listening to a podcast like this or speaking to your friend or getting a mentor or whatever it is and thinking, let's just strip it back. What am I really good at? Not what's going on online, not what I think I should do or what been told that I should do. Let's actually tap into something that I find effortless to do that people would pay for. And it's not allowing yourself to overconsume content and get so caught up in the shoulds and I should have done it like this, or I should be more like that, or I should be more open, or whatever it is. It's actually blinkers on. What am I good at? What do I believe in? What am I passionate about? Because that's when you stand out.
Hmm. Do you think that passion is more important than having the actual skill?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think maybe because you could be really good at something and not care about it. And I actually had this conversation with my brother the other day. He's really good in the gym. And I said, you should be a personal trainer. And he was like, no, he doesn't want to work. He doesn't want to do it for anyone else. So he's really good at it. He's nailed every time he sets a goal, he smashes it. He's very, very particular in, health and the gym and things like that. But he doesn't want to do it for anyone else. So if you're passionate about doing it for other people, that's when you build a business and a brand. Yes, skill is very important. And if anyone follows me on here, if you know, I speak about this all the time. Like, I think it's so important to be good at what you do because there's so many people in the world doing what we do. We're not reinventing the wheel. So if you're not good, you will fall behind. That is a priority. And I'm still learning. I'm always still learning. I'm studying. Like, I'm always trying to be the best that I can be. And I think skill is very good, but you can have a skill and not have that passion. And I don't know why this is coming to my mind, but it's even like footballers. They can be really good at football and like, I don't have a passion to play, because then you're not going to go to the trainings. You're not going to have that spirit. So it might even be 50-50, but I think passion is what keeps the business ticking when it gets hard. It is what builds a brand that people want to be a part of. It's what sells. It's what keeps you going when things get hard. You can have the skill, but if you don't have that passion, you potentially will find it really difficult to keep going in those moments. The skill is very, very important.
You're not growing in business because of the people you have around you. Your network is your net worth. When you're surrounded by people who have small minds and people who don't desire to build something bigger than themselves or just become the better version of themselves, you become that person as well. This is why you need this book. This book teaches you how to identify the right types of people you need beside you based on the journey you're going on, and how to seek advice from the right people who are doing better than you, how to be in environments that uplift you and encourage you to strive for greatness. If you're ready to become the better version of yourself and to grow in business, claim your copy via the link in our bio. Yeah, like just to add on to what you said, I personally feel like sometimes your skill can become your passion if it wasn't already. For me, I used to hate English, but I was always good at it.
Yeah.
And then when I started writing my book, that's when I realized actually I do love writing.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe it's just putting your foot through the door to see what works and what's actually going to sell, like you said.
Yeah, 100%. And I think people can, like I said, be really good at something and not have that passion, but sometimes the opposite happens where they find what they're passionate about or in, and then they think, do you know what, I'm really good at this. Because humans typically, we don't want to be spending a lot of time doing what we don't like to do. And that just is it, right? We don't want to, I wouldn't be, I don't know, cutting someone's hair because it's not, I don't know how to do it. And I don't want to do something that I'm not good at because it doesn't feel good to the human mind that we don't want to be spending time doing that. So if we know I'm kind of good at this, and then we get passionate, and also passion can build when you get results. Like you can start really impacting people and that feel good. And there's different ways that that can happen. It could be like with this podcast, right? You're passionate about helping people and impacting people and having these conversations. You then see that ripple effect. It builds the passion. And we're like, oh, well, let's go. We can take it, we can have bigger conversations and all of this sort of stuff. So I think it kind of fuels and feeds one another. But I think ultimately the goal in life, right, is to love what you do. So if the passion's there and you're good at it, it's a win.
How can women leverage their personal brand to create signature offer that helps them to stand out in the market?
Yeah, this is a really good conversation because again, similarly to what I just said, I feel like people have these offers and they put them out there because they think they should. And then that's where we lose that momentum, we lose that fire and that grit and that hunger to sell that offer. And so often I work with clients where they say, yeah, I've got this offer and it's kind of selling and I don't know. And I can hear in your energy that is flat. So when we think about personal brands and signature offers, again, it's tapping into what do I actually really care about and what am I really good at? And sometimes it's a birthright. It's like I'm born to do this. Like, I really feel like when I speak or when I host events, it's like I don't get nervous, I don't get scared. It's I'm born to do that. I'm born to serve. So then when we think about signature offers, it's feeding that back to what we are really good at, because again we want to do what we're good at. So if you've got a personal brand and you know your set of skills, you know your set of values, and you know the mission that you want to go and you know what you want to be known for, tying that to your signature offer, because then you don't have to think, is this unique, is this different, is it going to stand out, because it just will, because no one's you. So the more you can just keep it clean and simple and take it back to my core values, what do I actually want to do with this work, and what am I genuinely really good at, that's when you can then think, how can I create a signature offer that is so me that I won't get tired of selling and that will sell, because again people are drawn to my energy and they know I'm good and passionate and want to make a difference. Not, I think I've got this personal brand, I'm going to share more of me and behind the scenes, and then I'm just going to click this random offer that other people are selling and I once got told I should. You're going to lose that spark. And that is very, very important, because when you're running a business, as we both know, it gets hard and you have to keep going. And if you have that passion and you tie it back to your core values as a personal brand and what you stand for, what you believe in, what you're good at, it doesn't get so tiring, because you're like, no, this is what I'm doing. This is so me. I have to keep going. And you don't really ever wake up and think, I might just pack it in. Because you just don't. You're so connected to it as a personal brand. Your offer feels like an extension of you, rather than, again, looking elsewhere. What is everyone else doing? What should I be doing? No, blinkers on, tunnel vision, keep it clean, keep it simple, make it make sense for you so that you want to work on it every single day.
I think it's so important to create an offer based on something you truly believe in, not just for the sake of money. But one thing I've noticed about a lot of women that I've spoken to, they create their offer based on what they want the offer to be, not what the market actually needs.
Yeah.
So how can we differentiate those two things?
Yes. So I talk a lot about, like I've just said, being in alignment, passion, all the different things. But business is business. Business is, it comes down to consumer behavior, consumer needs, where the demand is in the market, right? So this is where I do sometimes get a little bit caught up and I think, okay, it's all well and good us being so passionate and being so aligned, which I have just spoken about for the last X amount of minutes. And it is very, very important. So you avoid that burnout and that frustration and, getting tired with it and things like that. But business, because that's personal brand. Branding is how you feel, how you make people feel, the passion, the work, the impact. The business side of things is a little bit different. It's a little bit more black and white. It's okay, what do the people want? Where is that gap? Or where maybe do I believe that people are being underserved and I can really help? I can make a difference, right? So it's looking at the data. So, yes, when you're building a brand, really tap into that, but you need to be very, very much aware of the market. What do people actually want? Like I always say this in my mentorship. As much as it sounds delicious, you wouldn't make a chocolate teapot because it would melt. There's no demand for it. No one wants that. You'll put hot water in it and melts. There's no functionality for that. So it's really understanding what the needs are of the people that you can help. So you want to tap back in and think, okay, I'm really passionate about this and I'm really good because normally they align. What do people want as a result of this? Oh, people want to fix their relationships. Oh, people want to get sexy and healthy. Oh, people want to make more money in their X, Y, and Z. And that's when you think there's the need, and that's where you marry it up. And that is why I do call myself, and I have done a lot of work to get here, a personal brand business consultant, because at the end of the day, I want to help people make money and I want to help them build a business, not just a online presence.
Let's dive deeper into that gap. Looking at what the market needs. How does someone figure out what the market needs? Because let's be honest, in most niches, everyone is doing something differently. So someone's got their personal brand, they've got their uniqueness. How do they figure that out?
It's a really good question. I am one, and this is really simple, but I think sometimes the simple answers work best. Market research. I always am having conversations. And in my mentorship right now, some people will say, okay, sales are quite stagnant. What should I do? I say, you need to be having conversations. There's no point throwing spaghetti at a wall, hoping something sticks. We know that saying, and it's so true. We need to be researching, we need to be gathering data. So I would be going to networking events, going to events, putting myself in new situations, offering out market research calls, doing my research in terms of actual sat at my laptop research and also that like where's the market going, understanding your industry, understanding your market, because it's really similar to social media, right? You could love social media, you could think you're really good on social media and think I'm going to be a social media manager. Okay, where's the demand? So who needs a social media manager and what do they need you to do for their business? Because I see a lot of and this is just an example, there's obviously a lot of industries like this, but tips, right? Social media tips. Okay, that's great, but why would they hire you? They've taken that tip. Can they implement it? Or are they going to go and hire someone who can implement it? If so, what is the result that they want? So it's understanding where their market is going, also taking into consideration outside factors like world events, trends, things like that, like AI, for example. How can we move with the times? So keeping on top of things like that as well. But I think the biggest thing I would recommend is conversations with your audience. So if you're stagnant and you're unsure, book out consultations or coffee chats or whatever it is. Go and speak to people, testing things as well. You'll only gain data if you're moving and testing, and sometimes that looks like failing forward, which I'm a big advocate for, because if you don't move, you don't know.
Let's talk about AI
Mm-hmm.
and personal branding.
Mm-hmm.
AI is scaling businesses to the next level, to the point where certain businesses don't need a face anymore.
Yeah.
How is someone going to use their personal brand to continue to grow beyond AI?
I'm going to say something that maybe is a little bit controversial, and I don't think not all people are going to agree with. I think we'll do a loop. I think we'll do a bit of a 360 or a 180. I think we'll get so far with it. And I think some industries it will absolutely fly for. And then I think there'll be a big percentage of people that just so badly crave human connection. So it's thinking about, yes, it will grow, it will develop. It is just getting more and more every single day. But there are ways that you can A, utilize it, and B, again, make friends with it, sort of thing, and C, differentiate yourself from it. So as an example, if you're a personal trainer, it's thinking, how can I create more in-person connection? Because people are going to really crave that. And I've already seen that online where people are in their four walls in their office at home, and they think, oh my gosh, I haven't spoken to another human in a week or whatever it is. And that can only take us so far. And I think true self-development, good conversation, like we're having today in person, me and you, two humans, I think that is just, it's never going to be not wanted. So yes, I think AI is going to keep growing. It will, that they've said that. But in business, thinking outside the box. So, okay, with me for business consulting, for example, we're going to focus more on in-person stuff. So community driven things, group conversations. That's why our new offer is very group based, because they learn from each other. You wouldn't get that from having a conversation with AI. It's very back and forth, and it's not obviously a real human. So thinking about, for you and anyone listening, how can I work with it, lean on it, make friends with it, not be scared of it, but also step aside so that I am differentiating myself from things that people can get from AI.
What are your personal thoughts on AI as a business owner?
I think it's great in some ways, but I'm going to be completely honest. I have even found myself not using my brain enough. And sometimes I'll just quickly ask it something and I'm like, no, no, I have to catch myself. I'm like, no, we're not doing that, because my brain is going to start just not thinking in the way that I want it to. And that's just, it's little things like tasks, right? Or like organization, or like even recipes. And then sometimes I'm like, no, I need to use my own brain. So I think it's really helpful. I think it's great. But I think it can be damaging. And as a business lecturer now as well, I see it with students and people learning in those lectures. And it's gonna really have a big impact on the next generation as well, of people just not thinking for themselves. And that scares me. So I think, again, with our offers coming into this, trying to, yeah, again, just knowing that it's there, working with it, but separating a little bit as well, because I don't want to lose that connection, and I know a lot of people don't. So I think it's useful, but I think it is going to be damaging to stop creative thinking.
So, if someone wants to start a service-based business, how would you recommend they implement AI?
So I would definitely use it for tools, organizations, ideas, even things like if you wanted to start a website, right? You can get now tools that will literally build one for you, or at least prompt you and show you how to do it for yourself. I think things like that can be great. I really do believe in working with other creatives. There's nothing like working with another human and having that sort of interaction in that project, again, with like a website, for example. But if you're coming into it new, you can definitely lean on it for budget purposes, because if you think, right, I've got this really good idea, I'm really good at this, and yes, I am really passionate about it, but I don't have thousands and thousands to get a website built and have a brand shoot and all these different things. So it's utilizing it in a way that can support you, but still using your own brain in your zone of genius. So if you are a health coach, for example, or if you're into health and you're just qualifying and you want to become a service provider, you could use it to help you set up your website and all these different things, and like an email list and things like that, or build that out. But when you're thinking about content, use your own brain, because you're the expert here and people want to hear from a real human. So it's leaning on it for things that are outside your zone of genius.
I'm going to say a statement that can be seen as a double-edged sword. If someone is heavily reliant on their personal brand being the face of their brand, their business won't scale beyond themselves.
hmm I do understand that. I just personally, for me, and I know a lot of my clients and a lot of, again, research I've done and conversations I've had, I don't want it. I don't want it to ever scale to a place without me. I always want to be. And I think of people like Mel Robbins, right? Like, she's not slowing down. So maybe if we want to retire, or we get to a place where we don't want to be so forefront, you'll have a team that will keep you going. And I, again, bringing it back to the whole passion and skill thing, if you love what you do, I personally wouldn't not want to be a part of my own career. However, I do understand that life happens. You might have a family and your values completely change, right? Or something happens where you just want to be off grid. That's fine. I would then think about other streams of revenue. and ways that I can bring in team to keep my message going. But again, I would then take it, and I don't think this will be me, but we never know, from a personal brand to a community brand. So it's more community led with the same mission, the same values, the same work, but not me being the face to it. So I think everyone's different, and it's not necessarily. I would never say everyone has to have a personal brand, but I do think for most people now, connection, human connection is so important, and networking to grow your roster, to grow your clientele. So yeah, I personally just think scale it. If you ever fall out of love with it, maybe you weren't aligned and you need to redirect a little bit. And of course, if you feel trapped by that idea, there are ways for you to take it to a point and then diversify it and bring in more of a community led brand rather than personal brand.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I personally think that people should start off with their face.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the same result when I started my business and I started with just my face.
Mm-hmm.
I got more clients, I got more people entering the community. And then when I scaled it, for example, this podcast, Bring On Women Like You, it took it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, yes, start with your face, but if you want the business to grow beyond you, think about creating a community, like you said.
Yeah, 100%. And I just want to touch on a little bit as to why that works. When you said my business grew a little bit quicker than, by showing my face. The thing is with business, right? It's a trust thing. So, and there's a lot of sales psychology and consumer psychology that comes into this, but I won't go into a science lesson. When we grow up as children, as babies, we have a parent or a carer, or whoever take us into certain situations, so we feel it is familiar and safe. For example, if you were bottle fed as a baby and your parent or carer, guardian or whatever took you into the local supermarket and purchased a product, it's already ingrained in us that that is the to do thing, right? So it's not scary. We're not walking into Tesco's or a supermarket thinking, oh my gosh, do I trust this place? It's just ingrained because that has been our behavior since birth. However, and that's a really dramatic example, when you come into the online space, people don't have that trust with you yet. So if there's no face, we can have all sorts of thoughts and feelings of who is it? What do they look like? How old are they? It could be 100-year-old person or a 10-year-old, but we don't know anything, right? And that will lessen and lower the trust that we need to make a purchase in our brain. So by showing your face, and it doesn't need to be perfect, and you don't need to be on camera every single day, it is literally just having some sort of human presence. It basically lowers that fear in our brain. So then when you go on to talk about your business, and I work with people in the events industry and they do balloon arches and things like that. Of course, the main part of this business is that we can see you're good at balloon arches, of course. But if I'm bringing you into my wedding, which is a special occasion for me, I need to know that I feel safe of who's coming to that special day, or if it's my son's birthday or my, whatever it is, a special occasion. I need to know that I can trust that person, that they're passionate about what they do, that they're good at what they do, that I feel safe, I can let them crack on, that my money's going to somewhere, again, safe. And that comes from that human connection. If I could only see balloon arches, for example, I don't know where my money's going. That might not even be that person's work. They might have stole that from somewhere else. However, if I can see the person in the picture with the balloons, your brain is operating at a completely different frequency and a completely different process. So yeah, I think it's just really important to touch on anyone thinking about coming into the online space, or if they already are, thinking about ways that you can lower the barriers between that purchase and that person and your ideal client or customer making that buying decision. And that will be by seeing that there's a human to the brand.
You often talk about the importance of being decisive and moving quickly in business. How does this skill help women effectively in entrepreneurship?
Oh, I love this question. I talk about and think about this all the time. By the time, if you're waiting around for anything, to test something, to post something, by the time you've sat on it, worried about it, not only by sitting on something and worrying about something, you are reprogramming your mind to not trust and believe in yourself. So that's a whole other thing that happens in our brain. So then when you go to take the action, it's so much harder than if you just did it in the first place. That's a whole other story in itself. But by the time you've then done that thing, let's say it's going live on Instagram, right? You've thought about it, you planned it, you then got scared, so you waited a couple of days. You then wanted to get your hair done, or you then felt like you didn't look good that day, so you waited again. It's been 2 weeks. By then, I've gone live every single day, and I've spoken or been in front of 10 new clients every single day. And that is the thing, it's making a decision, because success does love speed. And that is not to be toxic hustle culture, because I'm very not about that, but it is just make a decision, because time is going regardless. And we need to keep up. And again, that is not to scare anyone or to put any sort of pressure on anyone, but it's just, you have to see it in, let's go, let's test, because what is the worst that's going to happen? Didn't work? Okay. Well, you're still in the exact same place as you were yesterday. You haven't gone backwards. If anything, you've grown in confidence because you try something. And sometimes we can feel a little bit, oh my gosh, that didn't work and now I feel scared. But then you think, no, I did do it. And it's just that mental game. So it's keeping the ball rolling and moving forward. When we sit on things, people are going regardless. Time is moving it is just one of those things that you have to stay on top of. And again, not to get too scientific, but if we are procrastinating, we are rewiring our brain to not trust ourselves and not move. So then it just gets harder anyway. So it's almost just starting. And I always say it's the smallest steps that then build up, because you grow your confidence. I'm not saying do the scariest thing on day one. It is just doing the little things. It's posting that carousel. It's recording yourself speaking. Maybe it's even recording yourself for a reel that you don't even post, but you recorded it anyway, instead of just not recording it at all. Then you grow your confidence. Then you start to move quicker, and then the ball starts rolling. The ball's not going to roll if you're not rolling with it.
Hmm. Success loves speed. I love that you said that, because I agree. I feel like the longer you ponder on something, you're creating a bigger gap between you and the goal you're trying to reach. But I think there's a caveat to that statement, because impulsivity is a real thing that early stage founders especially face a lot in business.
Yes.
So what is the difference between being decisive and being impulsive?
Okay, I always think 24 hours. Sometimes people need longer, sometimes people could do it shorter. Think about something, and this is really true for investments, right? And I've definitely been here where, you see this coach that you want to invest in, and it's £10,000, and then they're like, if you don't join now, and then you think, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna do it, right? And then you could put yourself in a bad financial situation. Then it could cause a lot more problems. I'm not saying make silly decisions. So I often say to myself or my clients, give it a day, get sleep on it at least, and if you still feel the same, do it. So that's more about making investments and things like that, because impulsive things like that where you haven't thought it through can be more detrimental in the long run. Smaller things like posting the content, going live, that's okay, and you might mess up and that's totally fine. But being impulsive to a place where it can hinder you or damage you, your brand, your reputation, your mindset or anything, is real. It's very real. So if it is a big decision, at least sleep on it for one night. Sometimes it takes a week, and being okay with saying that to yourself or to whoever it is that you're dealing with in that situation, of like, is it okay if not even is it okay, I wouldn't even ask, but I'm going to sleep on it, and stand in your ground with that. I need 24 hours to think about it, or when can I get back to you? I need 3 days. Do you know what I mean? So it's putting something in place where you can kind of ground yourself, like you said, where you're not just moving chaotically. I think when you start to be a business for a bit longer, so speaking to those who have been a business a little bit longer, you can start taking a little bit messy action, because you really do know what works and what doesn't. When you're new, it is being maybe a little bit more grounded and taking that time to move.
How did you master the skill of decisiveness in entrepreneurship? What forced you to learn how to be decisive?
Yeah, probably was a sink or swim moment. It's a really good question. I think it is something that I feel like I've always been quite good at, but I definitely strengthened that muscle. And for me, I just didn't like the thought of not growing and moving. So I had to make a decision, because if I sleep on something, especially at the beginning of my journey, right? If I was like, oh, I could be a social media manager, but I'm not sure, maybe I shouldn't message that person, or maybe I shouldn't have that conversation, I wouldn't have been, well, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I wouldn't have grown my business that quickly at the start. And I don't know if I mentioned at the start, after getting my first social media management client, I quit my job in about 3.5, 4 months, and I had trickled my salary. So, I mean, I was on minimum wage. So it was, and I'll be open, it was about £4,000 a month I ended up making in my business. within a couple of months. And I was like, I was on £1,350 at my marketing job. So I was like, I'm going to leave my job. This is great. So I had to be decisive and I had to make that decision. And I also got to that crossroad of, if I don't make this decision to quit my job, I'm going to keep myself stuck again. So I did sit on it for a bit. I remember ringing my mum, like, can I quit my job? And she was like, yeah, I guess. And but it's almost like, if I don't do this, I'm limiting myself. And I just had that hunger in me. So it's just, again, tapping into what that hunger looks like for you and where you want to take your life without getting too deep into it. And it doesn't have to be life goals, because that can be really, that's a lot of pressure, but maybe just where you want to go for the next year. Where do I really want to be in the next year? Well, I need to move then, because the time's going. I need to make decisions. Again, not being too impulsive, but I've got to at least try. And I'd never wanted to slow myself down.
So I know you said one practical way people can practice decisiveness is giving it 24 hours.
Mhm.
But as business owners, we know there's times we can get ourselves into situations that require less than
Mm.
24 hours.
Mhm.
So what are the tools that someone can use when they're in that moment and they have to make that decision ASAP?
Yeah, good question. And I guess it depends on how it's going to affect your life, right? Sometimes if it's like, oh, I'm not sure and I need to make a decision right now, and it feels there's kind of something a bit eggy about it, and you're not sure if you could go it all in that moment, I would actually say no. Because if it's an investment, I would say no. If you're feeling a little bit eggy and you don't have the choice to give it more time, no, because it might be that the opportunity comes around again. However, if it's things like having conversations and you need to make a decision, you're not going to lose anything bar a bit of time, right? So you kind of want to weigh up, how is this going to affect me, either side. So if you're in a conversation, they're like, oh, do you just want to go for a chat now? I would say, yeah, go for it, because what are you going to lose? Half an hour conversation? If it's, you need to pay me right now and it's £10,000 and you feel a little bit uncomfortable about that and it feels a bit unethical and strange, I would say no. But again, if you have space, give yourself space. If you don't have space to think about it, you've got to kind of, in that moment, just tap into your intuition and, how is this going to positively or negatively impact my life, either way, and then weigh up what is more important.
What's one thing that can quickly hold someone back in entrepreneurship if they allow it to?
Their mind. Their mind every time. And this is the biggest thing. Like, this can manifest in so many different ways. It can be talking yourself out of things like we've just been speaking about. It could be constantly drilling into your own mind, I'm gonna try, but I don't really think this is gonna work, or oh, that person's done it like that, but I don't know if I could. That talk, you're gonna keep yourself exactly where you are. And it's so hard. And there's not really any sort of quick fire tips I can give with that. It is just be aware of it. Being aware, my best tip is being aware of your thoughts and your feelings around yourself. Because especially if you're a personal brand, right? How are you going to show up with so much conviction and positive attitude? And I don't want to keep using the word passion, but it's like that grit and determination around what it is that you do. If deep down in your mind, you're like, oh, I don't know if it's going to work, because you're always going to be one foot in, one foot out. So your mind can hold you back. And it is probably the one thing, the one most important thing that is designed to keep you stuck, because it's designed to keep us safe, which is, it's a brilliant thing, obviously, but we're not running from tigers and bears right now. But it is one of those things that is just being aware of how you talk to yourself. And then if you catch yourself talking to yourself negatively, if you wouldn't speak to a friend, to a best friend, how you're speaking to yourself, you need to nip that in the bud, because it's you and you at the end of the day. You're the person that's going to keep this going. So you need to be the one to champion yourself forward.
What situation did you face in entrepreneurship that made you realize your mind was holding you back?
Do you know what it was? It was prior conditioning. And I think it was about a year or two in, and I was capping my own income in my head. Well, mentally, I was doing it, which manifested into my reality, because I was saying things like, I've never grown up with money. Someone like me wouldn't have money, or who am I? I live in this small town in the UK. Like, who am I to do X, Y, and Z? And it wasn't super dominant, but it was definitely there. And it would manifest really weirdly in me snoozing my alarm. And it was almost like, I don't need to get up because no one's waiting for me, like that kind of energy. So I took myself to hypnotherapy. And again, that's where you've got to be decisive, because I could ponder on that and keep myself playing small. I was doing all right. I was making probably around the 5K month mark at the time, which is great, really amazing. But I was almost like keeping myself there because of my mind. And it wasn't necessarily a thought of I want to make more money. It was I want to help more people and I want to impact more people, which obviously a byproduct is making more money. So I was keeping myself stuck there in these cycles of snoozing my alarm, saying no one would know if I didn't really show up today, or I'm probably just going to stay here because, again, who am I to go bigger than that? Who's going to listen to me, sort of thing. So I decided, and again, that goes back to the other question of making that decision, moving on it, and acting on it, and implementing it. Not only making the decision, but actually sticking to it and being like, I'm going to make a change here. And I'm deciding from today that this isn't going to run. And of course, and again, it's having that conversation as you would with a best friend of course I can, but your brain's trying to keep you safe and stuck because it's what's comfortable and that's what your brain is there to do. So yeah, just making the decision to get hypnotherapy was game changing.
It's funny you say that because a lot of the women that I've spoken to, as well as myself being in this position in the past before as well, coming from, for example, that traditional employment environment, coming from, for example, that traditional employment environment and then entering entrepreneurship, I carried that mindset of not believing that I could make more than what my job could give me. And I feel like that's what a lot of early stage founders face. They think, I was earning 20 grand a year at my job. How the hell am I going to make that in a month for my business? So how can we get over that hurdle?
I spoke about this a lot at the beginning of my career, actually, of like consulting, because it is the natural step, right, of going from employment to self-employment. And a lot of people refer to it as the employee mindset rather than the CEO mindset. And it is, again, that conditioning. So I think people need to really think about what conditioning they've had. Is it your environment, how you've been brought up? Is it leaving a job that you have been maybe undervalued and underpaid? And I for sure was, and I loved the company that I worked for. I've made some best friends there. My team was amazing, but they didn't have the big budget to pay people. But I was running huge campaigns with huge brands on minimum wage. So it does make an impact on you. So if anyone listening right now is in a job or has been in a job where they feel underpaid and undervalued, and you kind of maybe are thinking in that box, right, of again, who am I to make more, or is it possible? Because your body loves data. If you can see it to be possible, you'll believe it. But if we haven't seen it for ourselves yet, yeah, you might have seen it online, but that's not us. That's where you then just have that block. So it's making small steps to prove to yourself that things outside of what you have been conditioned can happen to someone like you. So again, placing those stepping stones in place. So like I said, with like confidence and things, it's going live, hitting that button, or recording, and then you grow that confidence. So with regards to being in a job, when I made my first, I literally did social media management for my first ever client. I think she paid me about £160 for a month of social media management. And at the time, I remember seeing the cash come through outside of my job at the time. And I thought, well, I've done it. I've made money outside my 9 to 5. So that was a little bit of proof. Then I refined it. Then I understood that I could build on it. So it wasn't going from employee mindset to making 20K a month. It was the stepping stones in between that of proof, because then your brain starts to familiarize itself with it. It feels safer, it feels more doable. And then you're like, yeah, I'm the girl that makes money outside my job. And then you quit your job. Or if you've quit your job and you're going straight into business, again, it's finding those pieces of evidence that not only give you the data and the confirmation, but the confidence to keep going. And then it starts to compound. So you don't have this one day switch of I was making minimum wage in a job and now I'm 20K a month and it feels right. No, it kind of takes time, but you want to gain that evidence, and you'll gain that evidence by taking action.
Was that the exact moment you realized I don't need my job?
I think that was definitely, because that stands out to me. I think it was definitely the first moment I thought I cried. I actually did cry, happy tears. And my husband actually brought this up in his wedding speech. He was, I was so proud of you when you got your first payment from a client. You were so happy. I did. I cried. I was like, I've just made 100, I think it was like £136 or something around that, less than £200. I said, I've just made £136, whatever it was, outside of my 9 to 5. Like that to me, I was like, whoa, someone's just paid me for work outside a job. That was wild to me, because I've only ever made money at that point in employment, and it was always not a lot. So I was like, whoa, this is insane. So that definitely was the light bulb moment, and then it snowballed from there. I think the moment that I realized I could quit my job was when I saw that I had tripled my salary from a lot of effort. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy, but it felt, whoa, this is so doable. I get it now.
Chloe, thank you so much for joining us
You're
today.
so welcome.
Tell the ladies where they can find you
Oh,
and what's next for you.
this is such a good convo. As you can tell, I probably could just keep going forever. Well, I have co-founded our new group consultancy program with a lovely lady called Jess, and we are really focused on Atelier right now because, like we actually spoke about today, connection, conversation, community. Yes, you can get consulting. Yes, I still do private one-to-one, but there's just so much beauty in being in those conversations weekly. And we have an Ibiza retreat coming up, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can find me on Instagram at It's Chloe Co.
And we like to do this with every guest. Leave us with one piece of advice for any woman who wants to scale in entrepreneurship.
Oh, okay. Okay, one piece of advice. Lock in. Lock in. Choose the thing. Get clear on the thing. Make sure you know there's a demand for the thing. Lock in and give yourself time. So many people are impatient. Everyone wants everything yesterday. If whether you're starting out, whether you've been doing it 10 years, look into something specific that you are just ride or die for and you just are so obsessed with and that you're so good at and that you know people need, and stick to it. Just because it gets hard, just because it might take time, lock in, keep that energy high, regardless of what comes your way, whether it's really hard to get to. If you are that passionate, just lock in because it will come into fruition.